Coping with COVID-19, brought to you by Guardian Group. Live easy.
In this segment, we chat with Camille Quamina, who is a clinical psychologist. She's on the line. Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Good to have you with us, Camille. And we want to jump right in because, social media is now everyone's life. Most people are involved in some form or fashion on social media, whether they're using it for uplifting things like providing credible information, online concerts, as we've seen popping up, and even teaching, doing trade, and so on. But at some point, we find also it being a space where, so many negative activities can take place. Tell us about the impact that social media right now, especially with the COVID-19 virus, can have on the wider community.
Yeah. So, we all hear this phrase, fake news.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, that's one of the huge impacts that social media can have.
Mm-hmm.
We don't monitor, especially as it relates to our kids. If we don't monitor what it is that they are receiving, the information that they're receiving out there, then it's quite possible that they are being filled with information that's not true, that can cause them to experience psychological distress. It can cause them to become fearful,
Yes.
to develop anxiety, depression, just like an adult would. And so that is really one of the main dangers of social media. In addition, things like uploading videos, those things last forever. It's immortal online, basically, and we often have to think also about our children's future, and we have to monitor them and make sure that they don't put things out there that they're going to regret. When we look back at pictures of ourselves, or when I look back at pictures of myself as an adult, sometimes I'm mortified at my sense of style back in the day and how I style my hair. And those are just one-off pictures. These are videos and things of that sort that are now at our fingertips.
But Camille, that's one thing. So you have an impressionable young person. They're not sure what they're doing. They upload a photograph or video of themselves in a compromising position. You speak to them and you trust that they would know to do better as they get older. But what about when the parent does it? The parent uploads or encourages their child to be part of something that could harm them later on. You're putting them out there. People are ridiculing them, making memes and so on. What is the responsibility of the parent in that regard?
Yeah, so it is very important that we pause for a moment and we think it through. I think most parents really want the best for their kids, and they do the best that they can with the tools that they're given, and I think that's very important to acknowledge. But we do have to pause for a minute and manage our reactions first as parents, and then sort of translate that to our children. Because if there is no measure, there is no boundary put in what we sort of transmit to our kids, then we can also do some emotional and psychological harm.
Yes.
So while we may have the best intentions, we do have to pause for a minute and think, is this to help me cope with my anxiety and panic, or is this really going to help our kids, our children?
Yeah. Let's talk about persons in the public domain now. So we've seen people like Idris Elba, Tom Hanks, we've had the Justin Trudeau come out and say, and even Prince Philip, for example, information about them, come out and use social media to communicate, particularly, information about themselves. And I anticipate that they are thinking that this will help others to understand that it's okay to destigmatize, for example, the whole situation around COVID-19 and coping with it. But we have also seen instances where persons sensationalize and create, panic and drama and all of that. What do you say to that? What do you say to how we use social media to communicate, thinking about the impact that it will have on the wider society and the psyche of the community?
Yeah. So I think it's important. In some cases, we have seen some videos that have been helpful. And what we notice with those videos is they've taken an out of control situation, a situation where we all feel out of control. We really can't control what's happening out there. And what they've done in those videos is redirect us to the things that we can't control. So listen, I've been diagnosed and this is what it is that I am doing, and this is what you need to do to make sure that you're not diagnosed.
Right.
Sometimes we may become scared, we may be panicked, we may be fearful at what's going on, and we don't take a moment to come down before we get on that video or before we talk to somebody about it. And what we feel in those first moments sort of is broadcasted or is passed on to those around us. And that's why it becomes very important to manage how it is that we feel when we first get any type of news relating to COVID or anything of the sort. If numbers have increased, we recently had our first passing from it, condolences to the family. And when we get, those types of news, it's really important to manage ourselves first. So you take those deep breaths, you talk to somebody that can provide you with some comfort. You redirect yourself to the things that you can focus on or you can't control. So this is what is happening out here. Let me focus on making sure I wash my hands, let me stay inside. And you sort of bring yourself down before you really get into communication with other people in order to not make it worse.
Does not speak to, you're speaking there, and I'm paralleling it to if you're talking to someone in real life. Sometimes you get news, you get information, and you want to vent, and sometimes you vent to the very first person that you come into contact with, who may not necessarily be the right person to share that information with. Is it that people are using social media in a way now that is their community space, that is their venting space?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. But I think that we have to remember that while it's really good for us to connect with each other, especially in this social distancing time, that it's really important that we be responsible. And while we may need support, it's okay to take a moment and sit with that discomfort. We have a real, stigma against feeling any sort of heavy emotion. From the moment that we feel anything like guilt, sadness, anger, we tend to want to avoid it. We want to run from feeling that. And it's okay to take a few moments and sit with that, because the only thing that we're really running from is the narrative that we attach to the emotion and not necessarily the emotion itself. If we don't put a story onto what that emotion means, then all that it is that I feel sad. And that means that I will feel like if I've lost something or someone or some situation. If I feel anger, doesn't mean I'm a bad person or somebody is a bad person or terrible things are happening to me. It just means that you feel a sense of injustice. So it's really important to not have those narratives to the emotion and keep that emotion focused on simply what it is, just an emotion.
How do you speak to the persons who are on the receiving end now? So we've been talking to the communicators, the persons who are receiving this and also going through different emotions, anger, frustration, panic. What do you say to those persons?
Yeah, so that's a really good side that we need to look at. And I think that it's important that we keep ourselves grounded if we're on the receiving end. So the first thing that you do is not immediately react to what somebody is telling you or what they're feeding you, because it may just be that that person is feeling overwhelmed in that moment. So it's important that we keep our calm, we pause for a minute, listen objectively to what this person is saying, and find those things that they can control. Find those things that can be supported to that person and help them to come down from that overwhelmed or panicked feeling that they may be in. Because we've all been panicked about situations, Lisa, different types of situations. And in the moment when we feel extremely panicked about it, it's scary and it's overwhelming. And then a month later, when we look back, we've learned from it and we're no longer bothered about it. Like, take your first flat tire. For my first flat tire, I was by myself and I was very panicked when it happened. And now I'm like, a flat tire is nothing. You can do anything. You can call somebody, you can change it yourself, whatever, it doesn't matter. And so it's important to keep that perspective also, that what may seem like a crisis, yes, maybe a crisis now, but once you develop those skills and you manage that emotion, later on it isn't going to be or isn't going to feel that same panicked way.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Camille, Quamina, clinical psychologist, thank you very much for helping us work through some of the emotions that I'm sure many people out there have been feeling very recently. And we're going to leave it right now and thank Guardian Group for bringing this excellent interview to us.
Coping with COVID-19, brought to you by Guardian Group. Live easy.
All right, Carrie. Well, Camille Quamina certainly put that in a different perspective there.
Yes, definitely. And the big takeaway from that for me is respond rather than react. So take a couple seconds, you know, process what you're going through or process what you're receiving, and then respond in an appropriate manner.
But, you know, I think some people rely on social media as their community, and not in a judgmental way to say, well, oh, you shouldn't, and it's not real friends and all of that. But social media is really actually a community of people.
Yeah, that's right.
And people work through their issues on social media. But I think if you pull back and realize and recognize what the impact of what you're doing, what you're saying will have, and even commenting. So, you know, you see all these things popping up and your immediate knee-jerk reaction is to comment. But sometimes in that commenting, it can spiral and create even further drama, you know?
Yeah, so and we want to avoid that, you know? Again, respond rather than react. Take that 2 seconds.
Responsibly.
Yeah, I like that. You always come up with these great alliterations.
That's you, Carrie. That's you in my head. All right, we're going to take in a few messages. Come right back here on the Now Morning Show. We have so much more for you. Stay with us.